Currently, the West Van Police Department has 80 police officers, and that is down 1 from when I arrived. We were 81 police officers here when I arrived in August, and we've reduced our executive count by 1 inspector, so we are down 1 police officer from 81 to 80. We have 15 civilian employees and 75 volunteers. We police a population of about 47,000 people, and that includes the Squamish First Nation community that the West Van Police Department provides policing services to. In 2014, our budget was $13.1 million. The current budget request from the police board of this council is $13.1 million. So there's some good fortune that we have managed to come to council with a budget request that is the same dollar figure, but there you have it. I think it's probably pretty unusual for police departments and police boards to come to council and not ask for more money. And in fact, this $13.1 million request for us for 2015 includes a 2.5% wage increase for police, a 2% wage increase for our unionized civilian staff, and so it's actually a budget decrease in the sense that we're not asking for more money for anticipated wage increases. Last year we responded to 14,300 calls for service, and our 5-year average is about 14,300, so we are roughly at our 5-year average, although if you track it through, you will see that over time our calls for service are decreasing slightly, but we're pretty consistent 2014 over 2013. In 2013, the District of West Vancouver through Mustel did a citizen survey, and they included policing in that. And so the results were that of 93% of the citizens who responded to that survey are satisfied with the police service that they provide. 84% of those people wanted the current service maintained, which is essentially what our 2015 budget request does. 9% wanted an increase, and 8% wanted a decrease. So what I'm going to do now is go through some comparators. And basically, I'm going to go through the bar slides pretty quickly. Because the council will have them, and you can actually look at the numbers later. So the numbers that I'm going to show, so what I'm first going to do is going to situate West Vancouver a little bit in comparators in and around the region. So there's a couple of things that make the West Vancouver Police Department's jurisdiction a little bit unusual. Not unusual, but singular, I guess. So we have the residential district of West Vancouver. We also police the Squamish First Nation. We have a ferry terminal, and we have a very large regional mall that draws people from across the region, not just from here. And all of those things distinguish this community from a policing perspective. So these stats that I'm providing, the numbers come from the police database called Prime. So they are not audited yet. So what you will see is that when Police Services releases their 2014 numbers sometime next year, that the numbers will be slightly changed. But they will be slightly changed for everybody. So the important thing for council, I think, is to see where West Vancouver, which is the blue bar on the right, where it's situated relative to some of our neighbors. And so what we tried to do is we tried to choose either neighbors for comparators, departments about the same size, or departments with, as far as we could tell, similar policing issues. And so that is why we chose those grab bag of 5 comparators there. So this is crime rate per 1,000. The other thing I guess I wanted to talk about is that most of us will be aware that the crime rate in BC has been dropping continuously for some period of time. And this is a good thing. But context, I would argue, is important. And the crime rate in BC is still 90% higher than the crime rate in Ontario. It's 80% higher than the crime rate in Quebec. In fact, there are only 2 provinces in this country that have higher crime rates than BC, and that is Saskatchewan and Manitoba. We are number 3 for crime in the country. So are things improving? Yes. Are things getting better? Yes. Should we acknowledge that? Yes. But when we look across this country, BC still isn't doing that well compared to other places. Ontario is almost twice as safe as British Columbia, if you look at crime rates. Okay, so this is our violent crime comparator. And again, West Vancouver there is on the right. And this is property crime. One of the things that I've noticed since my arrival here in August, where property crime, where West Vancouver is different, than the place where I used to police is that most of our serial property offenders who are responsible for the majority of our property crime don't come from here. They are from somewhere else. And so this brings with it distinct and unique policing challenges for us, and oftentimes requires our members to travel because we need to go where the people that are coming here. And so I don't know whether it was easier or not, but the place I came from, most of the prolific offenders were homegrown. So traffic safety, this is where we're situated in terms of injury motor vehicle accidents. So the reality for us as citizens here is that we are most at risk, when it comes to public safety, we are most at risk of harm in a vehicle, or as a pedestrian, or using a bicycle. All of us are more likely to be hurt in a transportation-related incident than we are to be a victim of a violent crime, and that the difference is substantially so. So traffic safety, if we can improve safety on our roads in this community, we will do more good in terms of preventing harm to citizens than virtually anything else we can do. So this slide talks about actual crime clearance rates. So what a clearance rate is when we identify an offender. So what this shows is that the red line underneath is a provincial average over those years for police departments across this province in terms of clearance rate. And the blue line up above is the West Vancouver Police Department's clearance rates. So you can see that our clearance rates are substantially higher than the provincial average. And so what this tells people like me is that we are doing some good police work, but the reason why we can do some good police work is because we have the staff to do it. So when you look at clearance rates that are higher, I mean, there is never one reason for anything, but one of the reasons is organizational capacity. It makes sense. If you have police officers, of course you have to deploy them efficiently and productively and properly. But if you do that, you can actually make a difference, and this is where that difference will show up, is in clearance rates. So we identify offenders, we arrest offenders in a significantly greater percentage of offenses overall than the provincial average. So this is crime severity. This comes from Statistics Canada, and basically situates us again with British Columbia and West Vancouver, and there's three measures: crime severity index, violent crime severity index, and nonviolent crime severity index. So what the crime severity index is that some people have said that the crime rate is an incomplete measure of public safety, which I would agree with. So this other measure was developed by Statistics Canada, and what it does is it rates crime based on their impact on individuals. So for example, on the crime severity index, a residential burglary, which has a very significant impact on the person, or an assault, is rated higher or weighted greater than shoplifting. And so when there's this complicated formula that StatsCan uses, and so when it's all weighted out, they give it a number. And so you can see again, West Van is well below the provincial average on all of those. So now I want to talk a little bit about our performance over the last 5 years. So the next couple of slides are going to talk about the performance of the West Van Police over the 2009 to 2013 time frame. So you can see there, our violent crime rate overall per 1,000 is about 6.5 per 1,000 per year, and last year we were at 5.7. The red line is the average for the year, and then you can see the numbers there. It's property crime. So 2014 we had an average year overall, but I would say that for 2014, we had a bad year for residential burglaries. We had a good year for commercial burglaries. We had a good year for theft of autos, and we had a bad year for theft from autos. So when they all kind of settled out, we ended up with about the 5-year average. This is our injury collision rate. So slightly above last year, our 5-year average. So this, I wanted to show this map because after this slide, I'm going to talk to council a little bit about what the organization's priorities are for 2015. So this is a map, and those red hot spots are the places where the highest propensity of injury collisions happen. And you can see, not surprisingly, that they tend to be congregated on the Marine Drive corridor, essentially from the west side of Dunderave east. So, 2015. So we got together as a management team and we talked about, outside of the normal course of day-to-day business, what did we want to accomplish in 2015? And so we came up with 5 targets, 5 objectives for the organization in 2015. The first one was to reduce residential burglaries from 8 per month to 6 per month. I already mentioned that we had a bad year for residential burglaries. Last year in 2014, they were up about 40%. So we averaged slightly less than 8 residential burglaries a month in 2014. So our target for 2015 is getting that down to 6. So it's roughly a 20-25% decrease. And so we're already starting to talk a lot about how we bring that about. And most of these are committed by serial offenders, prolific offenders, most of whom do not live in West Vancouver. So when we need to have a meaningful impact on this particular number, we need to have the capacity to get engaged with these offenders, not just here, but where they reside. Reduce collisions involving vulnerable road users on Marine Drive. So we've already talked about that, and that's a 10% reduction. So where our target is. Why we chose this Marine Drive corridor is connected to the map I provided previously, and this is actually a very hard thing to do. I have been, in my 28 years in policing, it is tough to get people to change their behavior when it comes to drivers, pedestrians, or cyclists. And so this is tough ground to take up. So that's why it's a little bit, 10% is a little bit more modest of a goal than the burglary one. The other one relates to internal health and wellness. The research is pretty clear. So we run 24/7. So we have police officers, and everybody knows shift work has an impact on health. Our police officers actually have to maintain a very high level of fitness to be operationally capable. And I spoke about that a little bit last time I talked with council. And so the research is pretty clear for our industry that health and wellness programs reduce absenteeism, improve performance, and improve engagement of your staff. So we have set some internal targets around employee participation in our health and wellness program, and in particular around mental health. Mental health of police officers and first responders generally has gotten a fair bit of media coverage over the last 6 months or the year because of some high-profile things. And so we need to make sure that we are doing everything reasonably we can, that our staff have the skills and the tools so that they can maintain their mental health in what at times can be a pretty mentally taxing occupation. Complete a technology needs analysis and create an IT plan. So one of the things I'd like to see us moving towards is using metrics of various kinds more completely in terms of how we make management decisions. And so for me, that means that we use technology properly and to its fullest extent. So we need to actually sit down and have an assessment of where our current technology sits and where it needs to be so that we can put together a plan to get us there. So there's 2 places I think that when you think about policing and technology, operational policing is becoming more technology dependent every single day. And if we are going to continue to have the kinds of clearance rates that I displayed, if we are going to continue to be successful, we have to make good, effective use of technology in terms of operational policing. And then if we want to run the most cost-effective and productive police organization we can for the money that we're given, we need technology to help us basically manage our business. And so that we have metrics that we can actually make informed decisions about things like fleet size and those kinds of decisions. And so we want to do a technology plan, and we want analysis and put together a plan. And then the current existing strategic plan for the police department expired in 2013. So we have already started, and we're going to develop a new strategic plan, which hopefully will be done by the end of June, but more likely, probably September, the board will be rolling out a strategic plan for the West Vancouver Police over the next 3 to 5 years.